Hello there, it's Sarah from Paper Lovely. Thanks for joining me today. I've got 3 cards to share with you using the new Pretty Pink Posh Boo stamp set. This just came out this year and it is super cute. I gave you a quick look at it there. So I've kept these pretty sweet and simple. I'm going to start out here with card number 1, and I've grabbed a Neenah panel trimmed to 4x5 1/4. I'm using my Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and I'm just going to stamp this out right in the center of that panel. I'm going to do a little bit of Copic coloring with this. So originally I thought I would just do the little candy corn pieces, and then as I got going I decided to add a little more color and then a little more color, and I did end up filling everything in. I will list all the Copics for you on my blog post, but I did leave the coloring in here. I've sped it up quite a bit. And then at the end I will go ahead and hit those ghosts, which I have left white, with my Nuvo Shimmer pen. Now that I have my coloring completed, I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment, and this is included with the stamp set. It reads Happy Halloween to you. I'll again grab my Memento Tuxedo Black and go ahead and stamp that right just underneath that boo there. I then decided I wanted to make this a little smaller so I could see more of the background of my card base. So I have trimmed that down to 3 3/4 by 5 inches, and I've grabbed one of these spiderweb doilies, added some art glitter glue to the back of that, and I'm just placing that down right on top of my card base. This is made from black licorice cardstock, and this is really subtle tone on tone, but it gives a really cool look to this in person. So I have popped up my panel using some Scotch foam tape. I'll go ahead and peel away the backing there and then pop that on the top of my card base. For the inside, I've got another Neenah panel trimmed to 3 3/4 by 5 inches. I'm going to stamp out this little spider, and then I'll grab my Tuxedo Black marker and add a little web line coming down from the top there. I'll add some ATG to the back and then place that on the inside of my card base. And that will complete card number 1. So here for card number 2, I have a panel of MFT's steel gray cardstock, and this is trimmed to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I will actually end up changing. I decided to make this a horizontal card instead after I started working with it, so I will trim that down eventually. But I've again grabbed that Boo Sentiment, and here I'm going to stamp that out using my Versamark ink. I did go ahead and hit the background of that panel with my anti-static powder tool. These are some pretty fine lines that I'm going to be embossing here. So I'll add some Simon Says Stamp Fine Detail White. And then go ahead and heat set that. Here I'm going to trim that down. I've grabbed a card base made from MFT's Cement Gray cardstock, and I just sort of did this by eye, but it ended up being about 4 1/4 by 4 inches once I finished trimming everything. I decided to add a few more of those gray stripes above my sentiment, so I'm just going to trim these in 1/4 inch. And then I'm going to get that laid out here. And I'm going to pop all of this up with some foam tape. So behind these smaller strips, I'm going to use some 1/8 inch foam tape. And I'm going to go ahead and place those down first. I wanted to try and keep all of this spacing even, including that little line along the bottom there of that light gray. And once I have those down, I'll add some regular 1/2 inch foam tape to the back of this larger panel. Once again, peel away the backing, and then I'll place that down as well. So I wanted to add a little something more on the front here. I've grabbed some black glitter ribbon that I picked up at the dollar store. I'm just gonna put that across the top here, and I'll tie that in a knot. And I'll trim those edges there. And then I'm also going to add in a few paper flowers, and I picked these up at Michael's. This is the Recollections brand, and they are all sort of a cream, orange, and black color theme, so I think they are probably with all of the Halloween section. The orange flowers have sort of a multicolored bead on the top of them, and that I didn't really think that worked with the card, so I'm just going to snip that off there. And then I will also pull off that yellow center as well before I go ahead and glue these down. Going to add just a little bit of art glitter glue behind both of these. And then once I get the centers down, I will add a little bit around the edges of that largest flower as well, just to make sure that's stuck down nice and tight, since I do have a couple spots where it's not quite even because of my foam tape. For the inside, I'm again using that Happy Halloween to You sentiment. I'm going to stamp that out on a Neenah panel trimmed to 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm using some Lawn Fawn Fake Tan ink. And then I have here a stripe of Paper Tray Ink Canyon Clay cardstock, and that measures probably just about exactly an inch, maybe slightly over. I've added some ATG to the back of that and placed that along the bottom. Added some ATG to the back of my panel, and I'll place that on the inside of my card base. And that will complete card number 2. Here for card number 3, I'm working on a panel from that same Paper Tray Ink Canyon Clay, and I'll go ahead and hit that there with my anti-static powder. I am going to heat emboss, but I decided I wanted to do this sentiment in black, so I've grabbed my VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and I will go ahead and make sure that that's all stamped out really clearly here. And then I'm going to go ahead and heat set that using some Simon Says Stamp clear embossing powder. And I love watching that. It's like magic every time. I decided to trim this panel down as well, so I'm gonna take as much as I can, get as close to the top and bottom of that boo. This ends up measuring just slightly over 2.5 inches tall. I've got a card base made from MFT Steel Gray, and I wanted to pop that up, but I wanted to go ahead and stamp my sentiment first. So again, adding some of that anti-static powder tool, and I have laid out the stripe that I'm gonna add of my boo just for positioning, and then I will stamp again that same sentiment, Happy Halloween to You. This time I'm gonna do that in white, so I'm back to my Versamark ink, and I have skipped ahead here, but I did use that same Simon Says Stamp Fine Detail White embossing powder. I'll add some Scotch foam tape to the back of my boo panel, go ahead, peel away the backing here, and then place that down on the top of my card base. For the inside, I've grabbed a Nina panel trimmed to 4x5 1/4, and I've got another one of these spiderweb doilies. I'm going to add some art glitter glue to the back of that, and then I'm going to place that down just in the upper corner of the panel here. I've gone ahead and trimmed off that excess, added some ATG to the back of my panel, and I'll place that here on the inside of my card base. And that will complete card number 3. Here are a few close-ups of the finished cards. In the description box below, you'll find my blog post, which has additional photos and links to the supplies I used. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a comment or a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.